before had to increase.
The rates.
Yeah, so in this domino effect.
So you're saying, are you saying the line that if we raise taxes, then people are gonna have less money to spend?
Yeah.
Is that, okay. And that's, yeah, okay, and that's one of the arguments out there. Because unlike back then, now we are really concerned about the national debt, right? And so now there's more eyes on, well, exactly how much money do we want the government putting into our economy? And so, it's seen as a temporary stimulus or whatever you might call it. But we don't know the actual effect, because when we look back to the Great Depression, that New Deal, it didn't take care of the problem. It just kept us afloat for a while. So what will get us out of the Great Recession?
What's the difference between recession and depression?
The severity.
So recession's like a prequel?
Recession's like bad, but not as bad. Depression is like, egads, that's bad. Let me give you an example. If you compared the same rates of unemployment, today it'd be 17% compared to the 25%.
Yeah.
Way more people were losing homes and getting evicted back then. It was much worse, much more severe. Let's go to the oh, wait a second. What were we just talking about here?
The difference in recession and depression.
Yeah, right before that.
Yeah.
Big gap.
What's going to get us out of recession?
Selling to European.
Unload the steam.
Oh yeah,
The,
they're
uh,
like, this is the economy now.
Government spending. Okay, well, just the other day. Oh, Greece. That's what it was. Okay. Greece has a real they have a welfare state. Okay, a lot of people rely on the government for their pensions and things like that. Well, what's happening over at Greece is they're about to go broke. They don't have enough money to pay off their bills, so they need to get another loan from the European governments. Okay, and in order to get that loan, the European government said to Greece, you've got to cut your spending. How do they cut spending? They've got to cut programs. So what's going to happen in effect is teacher salaries. Average teacher salary was like this per month. It's going to go down to something like $9.50 a month. Okay. Retired folks that have their pensions, their equivalent of like Social Security, are going from something like $640 down to $450. Okay. Now, if you are one of these people, how do you respond? And that's a huge number of their citizens.
Rabble.
Yeah, what did they do over the weekend? What did they do over the weekend in Greece?
They
What?
went,
Riot.
yeah, I know what they did.
Yeah.
Complete riot.
They went to, they protested and they went over and then they had like a lot of cops come in and then like, it was just bad.
Yeah.
Wait,
While their government was making this decision to approve these cuts, a bunch of people were outside rioting, protesting, and they burned like 20 buildings.
Oh.
Setting fires.
Violent protest.
Borderline chaos. Okay? And so, now let's go to the United States. Just the other day also, it's a busy weekend. $3.8 trillion is what the president proposed in his new budget. He said it's going to cost $3.8 trillion to run the country. However, we're only bringing in about $2.8 trillion in that time period. I can't remember if it's 1 year or 2 year budget. Anybody know?
I think it's 2
I
years.
think
Is it 2 year? Okay. I know it is for the state, but I don't know. I can't remember these guys. So that leaves us how many in the hole?
1 trillion.
$1 trillion.
Basic.
Now, that means we are adding about $1 trillion to our $14.5 trillion deficit. That's a lot of debt. So, we are concerned about this because we don't want to end up like Greece. You following me?
Mm-hmm.
But if we cut $1 trillion of spending out of this and make it only a $2.8 trillion budget, what is that going to look like in America?
The same thing that happened. Probably worse.
Yes, sir.
So, am I correct? We just print money, we distribute it, and we have a set on how much we can print.
We can print as much as we
Then
want.
why do the other countries need to know? Like, we just print a lot of money.
Because inflation.
Because then the money's not worth anything.
Piss on it. We're out of debt, right?
Urinate on
Urinate on it.
it. Well, then nobody's going to borrow money from when our government puts out bonds when we need to raise money. Okay, we put out bonds and people want to buy them because we have a good, we're the United States, we're a great economy. But if we put out a bond and all we've done is printed so much money, all of a sudden when we put out a bond to raise money, nobody's going to buy them. And now we're not getting, because right now we have to put out bonds to pay our old bills, to raise money to pay our old bills. And if all of a sudden that happens where we can't raise new money, then we're in a real pickle.
I don't know. Would it be false advertising?
What happens if our nation fails completely?
What happens if our nation fails completely?
Declaration of Independence.
Then
We have
you
the right
we're
to
not.
take it.
That's the people that are going out and buying their guns and all their ammo and storing up their food,
Bug out bag.
that are ready for the complete chaos one day. But hopefully we won't reach that point. Because good news is this. The Depression was way worse than our current recession, right? Way worse. And we recovered from that somehow
There's
and went on to great times.
probably a lot more nationalism at that time.
Okay, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's the conundrum. But how would that affect us in this room? How would that affect you if the government cut back $1 trillion in spending? Just like that.
A lot of school stuff would be gone.
We have a lot less money in
Probably a
schools.
lot of like public services, like transportation and stuff like that.
Sure
It
thing.
depends where you cut it, because imagine if they cut the welfare system completely, or what if they cut Social Security?
Or military.
Oh yeah, military.
Well, if they cut welfare, are there enough jobs right now to employ those people that are on welfare? No. So where would they live? Where would they get their money for food? Are there enough aid organizations to take care of those people?
Probably.
If you cut for the military, how is that going to affect people here in the Graham area? Do we have people that rely? Do we have people that are soldiers? Do we have families that have soldiers on base? Do we have families that rely on the businesses that those soldiers go to?
Yeah, but the military only is supposed to get money from the income tax that comes into this nation. So
Income taxes are way down.
then the spending for military is going to have to drop a bit. But that's when you decide, well, what is the government going to
That's
step
why
in
Boeing-
and decide what tax rate it's going to depend.
Boeing is taking, well, they're kind of taking hits. The Navy had to drop their order of planes because they're cutting spending. So they're buying less planes from Boeing. So Boeing is producing less planes here. So people who work at Boeing are doing less.
On the flip side, however, Boeing's doing great with international sales,
Yeah.
which are the good
And-
ones because those are not relying on governments.
And the Air Force is still doing their tanker
And there is some stuff with the Air Force.
stuff.
So, but yeah, if the U.S. military cuts back its orders to Boeing, or if the U.S. government cuts back orders for rocket technologies or satellites and things like that, I know Boeing works on a lot of that secretive stuff too. That's going to have an impact on jobs. So, and yeah, schools get billions and millions of dollars. Well, not our specific school, but schools across the nation get billions of dollars from the federal government. That money would go away. So, it'd be a scary thought. So how do you solve it? We don't know. That's still the thing that Republicans and Democrats are working out.
Try stuff
So,
and hope it works.
but the president said, okay, yeah, I know it's $1 trillion deficit for the year, but we need to keep doing this for a couple more years yet until we rebound. But will we rebound? We'll see. Okay, change the way. Number 6. How'd the New Deal change the view of government?
A lot of people
Speak nice and loud, people. Wait, not everybody has had a chance to speak up yet.
Everybody has to talk.
How did they change their view of the role of government during that time period?
I think that it was horrible. That they weren't doing a good job.
Okay. Initially, some people did start to think that at a certain point. But what else did they say about the role of government? Yeah?
I think the people kind of split off from there. I think they really split the point between liberal and conservative, because people who were really in the down zone, they went to the more liberal side and said the government's helping us, here's some acts. And on the conservative side, people sided with them.
Okay, the liberals, those people that wanted or really needed assistance, they were more welcoming of this bigger role of government in solving the problems?
Right, but the
Okay.
people who weren't went more the conservative side and said that they need to stop.
Okay. And more people had been on the idea of the government shouldn't have much of a role. So the bigger change was that more people accepted the role of government and expected the government to do more. Okay? Because prior to that, people always more of the blame and the situation was on their own selves. How else has the role of government changed as a result of the Great Depression or the New Deal as such?
Well, kind of on the same line that programs like the SEC and stuff were. The government just became in a lot more control.
Oh, the size of the government grew, the influence of government grew, and was that more acceptable? Do people accept the SEC today? Are they okay with the FDIC?
Yeah, the FDIC.
People are a lot more okay. There's a lot more acceptability of those. A lot of programs. Not everybody agrees with them, and there are a lot of people who like to cut the size of government. But there's a lot of programs that were put in place during the New Deal that we still have today. Most people like Social Security. Okay? Most people like the FDIC. Most people like, what was another one on our list? Still right. TVA. Okay? Because it's done good things for them. So more people have accepted the role of a bigger government. Okay? Because you take away the size of that government now, what's going to happen? So, but eventually there's going to have to be a reckoning with the size of the government and the spending and stuff. Proper role of government in developing a strong economy, that's totally up to you guys to figure out, and that's what conservatives are complaining about and Republicans or Democrats are complaining about. What is the proper role of government? Okay? And this is the big conundrum question that's causing big stalemates in our government today, in the House and the Senate. And between them and the president. Anybody have a suggestion for that one? Anybody have any answers for number 7? A good quality one that they can send to our politicians?
You start a war in another country against 2 countries, and then again,
Make another sell them all the military goods.
Do we need to have a war? Do you young fellas and some of you young ladies need to get your desert gear on and head over to Iran?
No.
Looking forward to that?
we should start a war.
Is that what you want? You want to get involved in a nuclear war between Israel and Iran?
Starting a war just to start a war and get
nukes.
starting a war just to start a war, hoping that it will help our economy is not worth the price.
Yes, Mr. Buckingham.
Yeah, why don't we just
Quiet,
like
please.
take
Quiet,
over
please.
Africa and
Hold
take
on.
all their diamonds?
Did you actually hear the debate between Obama and our Secretary of Defense? They're actually arguing between the point of who to side with if that goes on, Israel or Iran. I believe President wanted to go with more of Iran acceptance, while the Secretary of Defense wanted to go with Israel. So got kind of weird there.
I'd have to see. Yeah, I'd have to see that.
Isn't
I don't think that I would. If the president is more on the side of an Iran, I would be a surprise.
if a war happens between
He said he's. It's not that he's on their side. He doesn't want them to nuclear power, but he would get them support against Israel for them attacking.
Oh, I'd have to see that to believe that. I have a hard time.
we're
believing that.
supposed to be Israel
Because Israel's a big friend of ours, and,
Yeah.
and Iran is a huge issue. I'd have to see that interview or that debate.
It was on CNN.
Okay, I'd have to see that to confirm that. I'd have a hard time.
We started a war between India and
How about
China.
let's not start wars?
Yeah.
Starting wars is a horribly bad idea.
So we'd rather not. Literally, I mean, look at how many people died in the other war. Is that really what we want?
No.
I mean, do you want to go off to some other place and die?
No.
No.
Thinking logically,
Yeah.
most people are looking
Go
for
into
people
another
on the
country
war.
and have that country go to war with another country, and then just sell our goods to those 2 countries that are fighting. That's what I meant to say.
So you just want to start a war. You don't want to be in it.
You want to start it and sell to them. Both
There's a sign,
sides.
there's a sign that applies to that.
Is there any non-war solutions?
I have a solution.
Yes.
Yeah, reasonable,
Yeah, we
realistic.
we get really mad at China because they always take our technology without acknowledging our patents. And then once they identify our patents, we start just selling all our stuff to them for huge prices.
Except they wouldn't do that because they know.
They've already stolen them though.
Right, but I say we yell at them so they stop.
Okay, yeah.
In my opinion, cutting taxes and creating a central government will solve it.
We have to
Cutting taxes and creating a central government? What do you mean?
Okay.
Quiet please. Quiet please.